ha pedido matrimonio.
No.
Solo te estoy informando.
Y yo a ti. El amor no siempre acaba bien, animalillo.
Confía en mí. Demostraremos que te equivocas.
Has hecho una labor admirable en contra de tu naturaleza para criar a esta niña. Pero ahora, por fin gozará del amor de una verdadera madre.
My first question is about Queen Ingrid, Michelle Pfeiffer's character.
Yeah.
How do you build or create a villain for a villain?
Well, I think what's important when you create a villain is that, you know, or a character that is bad or evil or whatever, is to have a duality, you know, in that character. And I think for Michelle Pfeiffer and for me, you know, we spent a lot of time working on the character of Queen Ingrid, you know, because she's also a mother in this story. You know, she's the mother of Prince Phillip and she's the wife of King John, and they have a family, and you know, you have to buy into that somehow. That constellation also works. And then of course she has a hidden agenda. But I think those are the villains that interests me. You know, it needs to be a reason. You know, they don't. No villain should look at themselves as a villain. You know, they should always have a motivation for doing what they're doing. So,
I'd like to know if you thought you may be doing her too good for Maleficent, that showing too much of her good side and maybe forgetting the icon she is in the Disney villain saga.
well. And again, I think you're right. She has that duality to her. I think that a big reason why we love her, you know, is that yes, she is wicked and she has that darkness to her, and you know, she can kill you, you know. But she also has a great sense of humor, a very dry humor. But it is, you know, she has the zingers, and she also has a big heart, you know, she loves Aurora. So at the end of the day, I think that's what people relate to. I don't feel that we try to make her more good in this film or anything like that. I'm hearing also that we made her more evil in this film. So, you know, it's like a balance, you know, with how you see it, I guess. But for me, it's always about that duality in her and like trying to mix it somehow. And I think also Angelina Jolie, that's what she's so amazing at. You know, she knows this character, and it's so fascinating to see her. You know, I can be in here, and she just like turn a little bit, and she's Maleficent. You know, so it is an iconic character.
Some people think that fairy tale stories about princesses and princes are a bit old, and they can't be updated to nowadays and nowadays interests. What do you think a fairy tale movie needs to have to be relevant in 2019?
Yeah, I think that a lot of fairy tales, you know, or folklore, or you know, reflects today's society somehow. I think that's what makes them interesting and present. And I think in this universe, it's very much the thematics of it is, I think, very much the man versus nature kind of thematics, you know, where you have Queen Ingrid trying to conform nature and, like, you know, so trees in the garden are square, you know, and then you have the dark fae or the maleficence of this new story in this new universe, representing nature and all what they are, and the tribes. And I think, yeah, we definitely wanted that in the film. And I think when the dark fae, they've been driven into exile, and you know, man is winning this battle. You know, man is taking over nature, and I think yes, absolutely, that is a clear parallel to today's society with climate change and everything that's happening, and we have to take better care of our nature.
What did you think when they pitched you the idea of these fairies, this war between fairy creatures, it's said, and humans?
I mean, I think, you know, we've spoken before about how the first movie resonated with us, you know, changing character stereotypes and tropes and constructs and such, and challenging traditional fairy tales. And then, you know, to see the proposition of entering as, you know, part of her world and expanding that universe was, of course, something very interesting, but it could have been done in, you know, many different ways. So just joining her people is perhaps in itself not enough. To see the sort of moral questions and, you know, the conversations that this film and the Fae open on, you know, the environment, on, you know, diversity and otherness and fear of otherness in itself, you know, that made this a mouth-watering proposition to kind of combine fantasy with morality. I mean, this is kind of the dream role in many chances or project.
Would you like to maybe tell this story, how they were born, how they clash between humans and end up in their nest, maybe like in a prequel? Or
I mean, who knows, you know,
yeah.
but you know, I think they're fascinating, you know, the Dark Fae, and obviously their history and their relationship to humans is really interesting and detailed and full of conflict and drama, and you know, so yeah, I think it could be really interesting to continue to sort of explore. But I think that's what it sets up. I think is that there's a whole kind of lore and a whole sort of fable and a whole kind of world that can be explored in loads of different ways, I think.
How was the process of getting ready with the horn, the costumes? What was the most challenging part of the process before the shooting?
I mean, I remember doing a 10.5-hour makeup test and thinking, do the maths. We working, shooting for X amount of hours every day, and it's going to take me 10 hours. When do I get to sleep? You know, maybe I'm just going to sleep in my trailer.
It was the 10 hours that you get to sleep, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, you know, it was a kind of as intimidating, as exciting a prospect at that point. You know, they assured me, oh, we'll get the time down. And we did get it down. We got it down to about 4.5 hours in the end, which I sort of perversely really ended up enjoying and loving being there. And, you know, David and Stuart and the rest of the prosthetics team, you know, did such an incredible job that it was actually, you know, a privilege and kind of an honor to be their canvases, to have them put, you know, make us their pieces of art, you know. And in terms of like a transformation process as an actor, you know, if you're playing a character from the 1920s, your physicality is informed by high-waisted trousers, or, you know, the shoes you're wearing, and chainmail or Viking times or whatever makes a difference if you're sitting on a horse. This was the ultimate in that. I've never had such kind of been so informed by the physicality of one of my characters to the point where you step out, and before you've even stepped out and seen Chiwetel and everyone, all the other Fae, you know, you already feel like you're just ready. And so it truly was cinema magic.
In Disney history, sidekicks have been really an important part of the villains. How do you see this relationship between Diaval and Maleficent, in particular in the sequel?
I think we try to imagine if they've been together all for the last 6 years, what sort of... He obviously hasn't flown off. Something is keeping, you know, has kept him by her side. And partly I think that's the raising of Aurora, and they've become the sort of parents to Aurora after she killed his father in the first one. And I think we enjoyed the thought of them arguing and bickering with one another like an old married couple. But he's the one character maybe who has the courage to tell her how he sees it, you know, and to correct her or to guide her into the world of the humans. I mean, he recognized in the first movie quite quickly that, you know, there's a warmth behind their cheekbones. And I think he's developed that, and we really enjoyed the playfulness that we could bring to it this time.
One of the scenes I liked the most of the movie was the dinner scene. And how was shooting this scene with two great actresses throwing shade at each other, representing all those awkward family dinners we all have?
Yeah, it was intense. It was a treat, you know. Sometimes you'd forget that you were in the scene. You know, you have to keep going, oh shit, I'm at the table as well. Because you could really find yourself getting lost watching the two of them perform. You know, they're both incredible actors. Mm-hmm. And I've been a fan of Michelle since I was, since I can remember. You know, Scarface, Catwoman, Baker Boys. She's an icon of cinema. It was a treat.
We've been shooting in Spain recently with Jaume Balagueró, and I'd like to know what can we expect of Way Down, this money heist, this bank robbery in the center of Madrid?
It was amazing. I had such a wonderful time in Madrid. I'm with Jaume. You can say his name better than I can. But it was an international project with some great Luis Tosar. I worked with him, who I love. Yeah. He's amazing. And Freddie Highmore. And they shut down the center of Spain, which has never been done before. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I'd like to ask you about these movies that focus on villains that don't you think maybe they risk bursting the bubble of this icon of evil, showing maybe a lot of good and not so bad? I don't know.
In this particular character,
Maleficent.
I don't know. I think she's badder in this one than she is in the first one, almost. I mean, aside from the baby cursing thing. I don't know. I think you have to somehow, you have to bring both things, because that's partly what we're saying, that there is, there's no absolute evil or good. So I think that's part of the whole point of the story in this case. But I mean, I still think there's still space in the Disney catalog for Scar or what's the baddie in Aladdin?
Jafar.
Mm-hmm. Where you get some great villains. I'd love to play one of those. Mm-hmm. Okay. Hint.
Prince Phillip has a bigger role than in the first one. How did you see this role that Phillip has in the sequel?
Well, I think it was exciting in a few different ways, because it was an opportunity to not only expand the world of Maleficent, but expand the character of Prince Phillip, and we sort of meet him and Aurora when they're at a time in their lives and where they're, figuring out how to find their voice as young adults, and they're very much in love and they're very much trying to stand for unity, they're a part of two very different worlds, and they're trying to sort of collide those views and sort of merge that, So it was exciting to come on and try and represent that and create a story within that and find the character. It was exciting.
Some people say that these fairy tale stories and stories about princesses and princes are not relevant in today time because they are related to stories that are a bit aged. But what qualities or should a prince have to be a relevant character in a movie for 2019, like Prince Phillip, for example?
Yeah, I think when I first got on board of this, I thought about who Phillip was, and I won't make this whole answer about me, but when I thought about who Phillip was and who, it was more about who I sort of, as a kid, when you look up to male figures in your life and men sort of in general, what you sort of project onto that and what you want those figures to be for you and what you sort of expect, you know, and I think that was what sort of Phillip was, and he's trying to be noble, he's trying to find his voice, he's a sort of young man coming up against his family's sort of maybe stagnant views, and you know the film stands for many different things, you know, and I sort of think within a fairy tale you can address certain issues that people can understand and relate to more easily.
Well, you've had the opportunity to work with a great cast. How does it feel to have Michelle Pfeiffer as mother and Angelina Jolie as mother-in-law?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there was a dining room scene where those two sort of go head to head, and to watch that was pretty special. You know, and I mean, I had to remind myself that I was in the scene with them and that I couldn't just sort of marvel. But yeah, man, it was a real learning curve and a privilege to watch them work and to work with them. You know, they made me feel really welcome and valued, and I really appreciated that. And it was, yeah, no, I'll value it as an experience for sure.
I'm a huge fan of the Kingsman franchise, and you're opening a new chapter in the franchise with the prequel. I'd like to know, how is it going to be different from the previous ones, besides the period of the movie, and how's your character different from Taron Egerton's Sexy?
Yeah, well, it's an origin story, you know, so we sort of discover the start of Kingsman and the formation of it, and how it intertwines into World War I, so it's different in that sense. And the character I play, Conrad, you know, he's a young man, and he's coming of age at a time where a lot of people are sort of being defined by their bravery. So, and you know, it's difficult to talk about it because I don't want to give it away, but yeah, that's probably all I can say, yeah.
¡Madrina! Tú no eres así.
Tú todavía no me conoces.